A very good morning to all of you. So we have gone through the paper solutions for both GS and CSAT, and now it is time to discuss what should be the right strategy. So I would welcome any questions that you have during our live session, and we would throughout the live session be focusing on some of the most important takeaways from yesterday's lecture. Clear? So the first thing that we would start is with the analysis for GS paper as well as the CSAT paper. Now coming on to the GS paper, if I broadly want to summarize it quickly, in a very few sentences, I can say the questions that were asked from GS were very targeted. When I say targeted, what does that mean? In economics, most of the questions pertain to macroeconomics. Again, many of the questions were asked from recessionary cycles, inflation. India has never witnessed borrowing, but still concerns were great looming around IMF, borrowings, credit ratings. So those are some of the things that have been globally into news, right? So economics, these were the major sections which were in focus. If I jump on to environment, what were the topics on environment? Climate action tracker, climate smart agriculture, system of rice intensification, Miyawaki method. Now Miyawaki method was one of the topics that was part of your down to earth. Similarly, greenwashing was again part of your down to earth. Question from system of rice intensification was again a question from down to earth. Numerous questions directly asked from down to earth analysis. So definitely I would recommend down to earth as one of the most essential sources that you must do to cover your environment section. Coming on to the next, which is the section on geography. Now geography, as always, pertain to numerous locations through India and across the globe, but most of those locations were contemporary in news. So what you want to do is, while you are preparing further, be it your mains or your next prelims, now from my side I would always recommend that keep these 6 months for your mains preparation. Whatever has happened in your prelims, whether it was good or it was approximately good, in either of the circumstances you have to keep your track with mains as of now. Why do I say so? The reason being, start your preparation for prelims only starting January, and from January to June, that's an ample of time to start your preparation for prelims. So right now, whether you see your score coming good, you are qualifying, you feel that you are qualifying, or you are on the borderline, you can qualify your prelims, then definitely you have to blindly study for mains wholeheartedly. Not in a case that you feel that your prelims score was not good, still then focus on your mains. Now when you are studying for your mains, your GS coverage would get completed automatically. So as I said, from geography this time, most of the topics were contemporary, direct topics that were asked, but most of them were expected. For example, Gadikota, one of the places which is called as the Hidden Grand Canyon, was recently in news. Namcha Barwa was again in news. Similarly, we had locations from Africa, various countries of Africa, and why they were in news. Now, each of these nations were sometime or at some point of the time or other mentioned in one of the editions of Down to Earth. So again, their economic and geographical significance gains importance. Similarly, there was another question from Vietnam, extremely important in line of foreign investments going. So India is looking for huge foreign investments, and when we are looking for foreign investment, at the same time we are also seeing globally where actually the foreign investment is landing onto. So what is the strategy those nations are following? What are the things that are unique to those nations are, or something that could be looked for or taken into account? So Vietnam was another important question. Then we had, as I said, lots and lots of questions from economics. direct questions. From history, most of the scholars and their contribution were the question. There was one question from Saint Ramanuj, and Saint Ramanujacharya. We had covered one of the lectures in detail, the teachings of Ramanuja. There was another question on Somnath circuit recently being inaugurated and the role of Al-Biruni in motivating Mahmud Ghazni to actually invade India. So again, that was one of the important questions that was asked in your previous year paper. Coming on to science and technology section, the questions were highly expected, as we believed the question on vaccination was very, very sure. But again, I would like to pinpoint one important thing here. Don't go by the news clippings which are available. Go by the official sources, because the questions were beyond the news clippings which are part of most of the web pages on Google. So even if you are going for Google, go for official sources. Once you go for official sources, you would understand how important it is to solve the problem, how critical it is to understand the intricacies of each question. Okay, now if there is a question on constitutional provisions, the reserved and the provisional status of the Government of India Act 1999, that was one of the questions. Now most of the places you will find just there are two sections of it. What are the details, what are the intricacies is missing. So make sure you focus on you are on the right track. Similarly, from science and tech, quantum computing, as we said in the beginning, was an important topic. There was one of the topics, leopard in spot, and that was one of the special editions of a special news clipping, I would say, of the Hindu. And based on that, there was a question on wildlife protection, that wildlife is a responsibility or a government property and mere apprehensions cannot be the criteria. Clear? So yes, Ritik and others who have questions can please post those in the comment section. We'll be happy to entertain those. So that was one of the questions that was asked. Similarly, softwares as services, a very important topic recently going on. Similar questions can be asked even if you are preparing for other competitive exams. This is again a very important question. Web 3.0 we had already covered recently in a separate video. Non-fungible tokens, NFTs, was one of the topics as part of your economic survey and the budget analysis, and therefore it was important. The collectible bonds, the inflation indexed bonds, again a important topic that you must cover. Avinash has a question about how to prepare for JEE. Avinash, we have another YouTube channel which is Doorstep Tutor. So Doorstep Tutor YouTube channel, you can definitely subscribe for that. For sciences, all 11th and 12th are covered for maths, physics, chemistry as well as biology. So NEET JEE is covered on that channel. I request you to just follow it and you would have deeper insight. The next is NFTs, as I said, was one of the important questions. Then you have Bank Bureau question. So Bank Board Bureau, another important question that was there from economics section. From science, there was a question on quantum computing. Biorock technology, again a very important aspect. So what happens is there is a metallic cage which is put under the water, and through that electrodes are connected and electrolysis of water is done. So mineral starts depositing and you have calcium deposition. Now with this calcium and mineral deposition, what happens is the substrate formation takes place. Now this substrate actually becomes a medium for growth of the corals, and even the damaged corals could be repaired. So an excellent way to conserve the marine ecosystem is through biorock technology. As we said, nanotechnology, nanoparticles are important. So there was another question from nanoparticles, extremely important topic, and therefore must be covered. Hari Narayan has a question, which subject should I start now onwards? I am confused seeing the question paper. So Hari, if you would actually mention whether you are talking about UPSC or other examination, and even if it is UPSC, whether you are targeting towards mains, and again if it is mains, whether you are focusing on GS or optional, that would give me an idea how to mentor you further. So I hope you would post those in the comment section. Coming back onto where we were, so nanoparticles was another important important question, as we said. Then solar flares, extremely important topic. We covered it in one of the lectures. We had recently covered another few important videos. One was the donkey milk and its importance. There was another video that we covered, and that was the orange skies in Iraq, the dust storms, and the climate change, the related phenomena. So there was another question related to G20. Stockholm plus 50 is another important topic for your next upcoming examination as well. Then very important question, Harinarayan has a question for UPSC. Okay, so UPSC right now, as I said, be it one and all, I request you to do your mains preparation right now. You might be lured by a lot of things around for prelims, but the idea is, if you are covering your GS for your mains, your prelims is already done, few sections would remain. For example, world geography, which is not part of your mains syllabus. So I am talking about the topics which are not part of your main syllabus. Ancient as well as medieval history, not part of your main syllabus. Okay, so these two are the most important, and a little of world politics, not a lot of world political affairs are asked. International organizations, I would primarily say here. So these three are the topics which are specifically targeted for your prelims. Now these three topics you can regularly do while you are doing your newspaper study, but the remaining sections you can leave it towards your end, not end, after January, right? So till January, till December, I request you to do only and only mains. Two important reasons: if you qualify for this prelims, definitely you should not wait for the result of the prelims. If you are waiting for the result of the prelims to start your mains preparation, you are already too late, because you won't get an ample of time, and then you would feel, probably I have wasted my attempt. This was a chance, I qualified prelims, but still I am not well prepared for my mains examination. So that should not be the case, firstly. Secondly, when you are preparing for your mains, your GS portion is already done, and in mains GS, what is extra? The only thing that you would study extra right now is the ethics section. Remaining all section, paper 1, 2 and 3 are applicable for your prelims as well. So only paper 4, which is the ethics section, would be a separate section that you would have to study here. Clear? So definitely go for the GS, and also cover your optional by this time, because this would give you an edge. As you see, this exam was in June, the next exam for the mains is in September. So technically you get only July and August. Starting September you have your exam. So even if you consider July to be full, only 3 months in hand. Now with 3 months in hand, you have to do writing practice, you have to focus on essay writing, focus on your optional. That would give you a huge burden probably. So to relieve that, a good idea is to complete your optional by December itself. So complete your optional in advance, even if you are targeting for 2023. And in case you are waiting for a positive result for your 2022 prelims, then definitely preparing for your optional and going for your GS should be the only target right now. But don't wait for your prelims result by any case. That's first important thing. The next question is by SKY. What is the strategy to cover science and technology? Now, a very good question that you have put up. The most important thing is refer the news regularly. So as we said, if we look onto this year's paper, I'll point out some of the important topics. Quantum computing, one question. Nanoparticles, another question. Another question on solar flares. Another question on software as services. Then we had another question on bedrock technology. There were various questions pertaining from Science the Wire. Okay, so Science the Wire or The Wire newspaper is a good option that you can study for science and technology. A lot of questions. Vaccination was another expected question that was asked. So probably if you look onto the depth analysis of science and technology, a very little portion was dedicated to the NCERT science. NCERT science, what kind of question was there? Which of the following are responsible for acid rain? So that was a basic question. Ozone was another question. But with the ozone, it was a mix of NCERTs and contemporary information. The ozone question had the particulate matter 10 and particulate matter 2.5, their limits and their guidelines by WHO. So again, the things are mixed here. You have to be very, very sharp in understanding this, that how do you proceed. So go through your news regularly. Whatever topic you go for in news, you hear some important term, understand the topic in depth, and that's the only way to perform excellent in science and technology. I repeat again, most of the snippets that you would find on internet would be like short current affairs summaries, but that won't help you answer your prelims questions at all unless and until you have in-depth sound concepts about each of the questions that are there. Okay, there is another question, another same question which is there for strategy for science and technology, right? The next question is, I mean, all questions from current affairs in science and technology, how to cover NCERTs, right? As I said, NCERTs were there from the science section, but the weightage was relatively very less this time, specifically for science and technology. Most of the question focus was contemporary. So system of rice intensification was another important question that was asked. Similarly, we had other questions. I'm just trying to get hold of the other kind of questions which were asked. One was on polar waters, the other was on missile technology. So all these questions pertain to the recent contemporary events. Clear? So focus on the current sections. Science the Wire, I would say, is an excellent reference. Miyawaki method was another question. There was another question on Gucci mushroom. Yes, trying to remember a lot now. Okay, so Gucci mushroom was another question. Miyawaki method, which is mini forest in urban area. I had covered this topic separately in Down to Earth. Extremely important, I mentioned at that time also. And this Miyawaki method is again important for those taking optional, be it the geography optional, geology optional, earth science optionals, basically the geography and allied optionals. This topic is again important for your GS perspective as well, right? Then we had the system of rice intensification. Agro farming, natural zero based natural farming is another important topic for your mains. So based on this prelims, we have very targeted topics that you must prepare for your mains. For mains 2022, if I talk about some of the targeted topics, definitely inflation, bonds, the cycle of capital and revenue expenditures. So basically recession, adjustments to recession, stagflation. We had questions related to credit policies, credit rating agencies that become important, the government role, loans, borrowings, how would economy actually work with the monetary, will we need to increase the monetary supply? If we need to, by how much, and what should be the proportion? The various government policies, Environment Day, celebrations regarding Environment Day. The next question is, Avinash, for any competitive examination, we should revise classes social science 9, 10th, 8, 9, 10th. Definitely you are correct, Avinash. If we look onto the paper, the basics, I would say, had the foundations from the NCERT. Like when I'm always regularly saying this time, cover your macroeconomics. Now, if you have not read the NCERT 11th and 12th, you don't have the foundations for what is macroeconomics. So, me saying macroeconomics would not make sense unless and until you have an idea about what actually is macroeconomics. So, when we talk about the economics at a national and at a global level, we say it's macroeconomics, but of a firm, of an individual, is a microeconomics. So when we focus on macroeconomics, issues related to inflation, recession, expansionary monetary policies, contractionary monetary policies, when do you apply contractionary monetary policy during your inflation cycle? When do you apply expansionary monetary policies during your recession period? So one is during inflation, the other is during recession period. Then how government actually buys and sells, and what's the impact on the demand and the supply? If you try to understand by simple aggregate demand and supply curves with a short run aggregate supply curve, so you would have the short run aggregate supply, the long run aggregate supply, and the aggregate demand curve. The intersection would give you an equilibrium, and this would be a good idea to help you understand how to proceed forward. So just don't be afraid of these graphs, but this graphs gives you a quick insight and an understanding to solve MCQs. Even if your MCQs are theoretical, you can understand, okay, aggregate demand can increase in what scenarios? You can answer this question, you can attempt the question. So that's how you can proceed. The next question is from Hari Narayan about the strategies for international relation. Again, a very important question, a very good question rather. The strategy for prelims and mains for international relations would be a little different. For example, this time Senkaku Island was one of the questions. The dispute, the East China Sea dispute, the maritime dispute between China and Japan was one of the questions. There were questions on organization of Turkic states. Who are the members to those? So those kind of questions where various international organizations are asked, okay, and their member nations are asked. It is asked whether India is party to these international organizations or not. Then you had questions regarding UN Security Council, UN General Assembly, questions relating to other organizations and seeing whether they are allied or associated with the UN or UN has been working with them in some form or the other, can be another kind of question. So these questions are very kind of questions based on rote learning, I would say. But how would you know what to rote learn? There is so much. It's a deep ocean. So how would you figure out the right material, the right thing? The best idea is to follow the news headlines regularly. If you follow the news headlines regularly, The Hindu in the last 3 months, if you go through, you would see the Levant was one of the questions from that. There was another question on Senkaku dispute, which was covered there. Organization of Turkic states, again covered there. But these news articles would just cover something about it. What you would have to do is pick that topic, understand the topic in depth. That's the difference. I'm repeating it again. You pinpoint a topic from the news, and once you pinpoint a topic from the news, you understand the topic in depth. When I say understand the topic in depth, what you need to do? Don't rely on other online portals. Rely on official sources. Try to create your own content, specifically for prelims. For mains, you can refer the given limited material, because definitely while writing your answers you have 2 to 3 pages, so you cannot write a lot. But again, if you are reading your editorials, you would have good ideas, something which is different from the other marks, and that's the way you can secure good marks in your examination. So that's very important to note here, that strategy for your prelims and mains preparation is way off, but the content is more or less the similar. So if you are able to do good with one content, then definitely you can do good with other content as well. The only important thing in mains, what matters is first of all your presentation. The second is your knowledge or content, the in-depth analysis, and the views or the opinions. Now opinions or the views, when I said it should not be opinions, rather views, because opinions could be biased, but we have a factual realistic views. So have independent thought process, find the pros and the cons, both sides of the coin, and analyze it and do a justice to it. Divyansh, I would appreciate if you could repeat the question. Shivam has a question. I am lagging with few marks in CSAT. Don't know what to do. Shubham, I would request you to don't get nervous right now, because official answer keys are released only after your final interview results are out, right? So you don't know what would be next. So I request you to keep preparing. If your GS paper has done well, keep preparing for your mains. If you want to focus on CSAT, you are afraid, what should I study, what should I not study? Then if we analyze this year's CSAT, so far we were focusing on GS, let's come on to CSAT as requested. So if we analyze this year's CSAT paper, last year's CSAT paper was pretty different from this year. Few important differences that I would quote quickly. Last year, 2021, small passages, many passages. Here, big passages and 2 to 3 questions based on one passage. The passages were tricky. The language was relatively difficult. This time, the passages were more or less direct and simple. That common language that you hear. No tricky, no English vocabulary testing kind of thing was asked. So even if you are from regional background, this section is something that you can sail through. But if we compare the section on mathematics, quant, the level, as you can see, is mentioned till class 10th. So level is definitely till class 10th. But what is important? The depth and the intricacies in the questions are increasing. So this time quant was relatively challenging. Like the question set that we have solved, the fifth question was a question which is of a Olympiad level maths question. But it follows the basic principles of divisibility. So if I put it that if it is in the class 10 syllabus, yes, it is part of class 10 syllabus because it applies simple principles of divisibility rule. But on the other hand, if you try to solve it, normally you won't find these kind of problems to be solved. So what is required is deeper understanding of each of the problem, and more or less the kind of problems remain similar. Number series, 2-3 questions asked every time. So if you practice well on number series, you are done with it. If you practice well with these kind of questions where circular table arrangement, sitting arrangement is asked, blood relations are asked, directions are asked, similar kind of questions come one and again. But try to be logical in approach and try to think of more than one options. Again, most of the questions had a question which of the following is correct. This time only few had a question which is not correct. So be very careful whether it is mentioned not correct or correct. And then sometimes you do silly mistakes. So if you get time, revisit the question, avoid silly mistakes by all means. There is another question, how to self-evaluate answers for means. A very wonderful question, I would say, that is put up here. This is something I definitely recommend to the students. So when I say self-evaluate, what does that mean? First is, you would have to evaluate whether you are the right person to evaluate your answer or not. So for that, what I recommend is write your answer. Take any topic, just go through the past papers, take any topic, take any question, okay? Any random question, I have the question and I prepared the answer, right? This is the first round of the things I did. Now, just leave it. Just leave it for today. Next day, read about the question. When you attempted, you didn't read because that's what happens in the examination hall. You are not around to read by all means. So, you read the question, about the question the next day. Like what we are doing today. You appeared for the exam yesterday, we are discussing the paper, we are recapping, recapitulating the important topics. So you are reading the questions now. So you read the question, but you read in depth. Not from one source, but multiple source. Right? So that's the next day assignment. On the same next day, come back to the question. Revisit the answer that you have written. Now find out this point missing, this point missing, this point missing, right? So you would automatically find at least 5 to 10 points that you could have added and your answer could have become better than before. This is the next step. Now you would rewrite the same answer. I know what I'm telling is time consuming, but this is not a lot of it. You would have to do it with 10-20 questions and you will be all set with your answer writing. No need to have answer writing sessions which would require hundreds of answer writings to be done. Rewrite the answer. Now, revisit the rewritten answer. Once you revisit the answer that you have rewritten, okay, go through the sources again. And again try to find out whether something was missing, whether this could now focus on. So in the first round, what you did was focusing on knowledge, focusing on content. In the second round, focus on presentation, how well you can explain the questions. Now when I say how well you can explain the questions, you would focus on whether I presented it this way, this side was a small flowchart that I draw, or I drew the flowchart on the whole page. It could be adjusted to a little space and the rest could be used for writing. It would have given a much appealing view. So do a self-analysis. And this way, You just have to have few rounds of edits and you would be able to self-evaluate your answer. I hope Sky High I am able to answer your question. Shivam has another question. Uh, Ma'am, most of our time is spent in understanding GS only. How can we spend our limited minds in maths also? Shivam, so if you are starting from now, you are planning or targeting for 2023. So when you are targeting for your 2023 prelims, it's a long journey. Definitely 364 years which are left. So 356 days probably would be the exam. So do just 1 hour daily. But be consistent, make it a regular practice. If you make it a regular practice and you are consistent, you would be able to solve the problems definitely. Start with easy problems, follow moderate problems, and then jump on to the hard problems. When you are solving hard problems, don't get nervous. Probably in 1 hour, you would be able to solve only 1 or 2 problems a day, but that's totally fine. Once you do that, you would develop an insight, because this is something that comes through only and only practice. If I say a lot here, it won't matter unless and until you practice, because only once you practice, you would be able to bring out the solutions, and that practice comes with regular habit. So daily, if you devote 1 hour, it should be more than sufficient. Then Lalit has a question. I'm scoring this much from 90 to 100 in GS, please. Should I prepare for mains or not? Lalit, I believe you joined a little late. In the beginning, I mentioned that anyone, despite of whatever you are getting in your analysis, though I have taken the analysis for GS and CSAT, that's what I'm recommending. Don't go for the analysis to understand your score. Go for the analysis to understand what are the kinds of questions which are asked in the examination. Understand the approach for the examination is very important. Now, why I say so? You don't know relative understanding, how well the others around you have done or how worse others around you have done. So it's a better idea not to focus on marks, not to have a apprehension whether I'll fail, whether I'll pass, whether I'll go through the mains or not. Simply blindly start your preparation for your mains. You qualify or not should not make a difference. Your mains preparation at this point should be 100% as if you are appearing for your 2022. Why I say so? The reason is again simple. In case you are thinking that I will qualify, I will not qualify, you are wasting at least 1 to 2 hours daily. What you would be doing is you would be going to 10 different sources saying, okay, this person has said this answer is right. Probably this answer key is correct. So I would get 1 mark. I would clear the exam. Now what you are trying to do? You are wasting your hours on a regular basis understanding something which is a past. It cannot be changed. What is done, it's over. What can be improved is only the future. So what you have to target is the coming exam. Don't waste your time analyzing. Focus on the important things that were part of the prelims and could be repeated for your mains. So start your mains preparation 100% right now, and then only you would be able to appear probably for 2022 mains if you qualify. If not, then again your preparation for 2023 is already sound. So that gives you a cutting edge not only for UPSC but even other exams that you might plan to appear for. Kumar Rahul has a question about CSAT. Yes, definitely Kumar. What exactly help you need for CSAT? Let us know. We do have separate modules and links below that would be helpful for your CSAT preparation. Nitish says I am not getting good marks. So please, whosoever are getting good marks or not good marks, don't discuss your papers. Don't find the answer keys for the sake of finding the answers. Take it as a knowledge seeking agency. Okay, so understand that getting disheartened is not a solution. The only way out to do good is to work hard for the next targets. So if you get demotivated here, what the only result could be, you would waste next few days and those won't land you anywhere. Even if you are not in a position to appear for your mains 2022, you can improve your mains 2023 or any other exam that could be intermittent. So don't get disheartened. It's a very important thing. Understand UPSC is a long journey. It's nothing is a short commitment. If you are starting your preparation now, you would be appearing for your prelims next year, mains the further next year, interview the next year. So at least 2 years cycle. Starting those who are targeting for 2023, it's not 2023, it's actually 2024. So you have at least 2 years cycle that you have to keep in mind. That 2 years would require patience, dedication, consistency and constant hard work. There is another question from Dhananjay asking about, can you once again tell a concrete plan for 365 days for 2023? So just a quick summary based on Dhananjay's question. So December should be your target for completion of mains, and that should include your optional plus your GS completion. Starting January, focus on your prelims. Start to prepare at least 2 hours. Those who feel they are not good at quant, start 2 hours practice for quant on a regular basis. Those who feel they are good with quant, they don't need to prepare a lot of time on CSAT, then it's totally fine. Just keep it aside, focus 100% on GS. Quant could be done in last 1 month, but those who feel that they might remain, they could have succeeded, their GS was good, but they could have succeeded if done good in CSAT, then start preparing for your quant. Even quant, half hour something or 1 hour could be adjusted even till December if you feel that you really require practice for it. So that's one of the basic things. Then strategy, the reference materials remain the same. Nothing new, not a lot of Googling is required, but major focus on major things. Stick on what material you are referring. Authentic material is important. Don't go by unauthentic, untrustworthy sources. Very important to note. There is another question by IS aspirant. Quant is quantitative aptitude. I'm sorry for using abbreviations. I am extremely apologize for that. So quant means quantitative aptitude. Anything related to numericals where you are asked mathematical questions. That is, as per the syllabus of UPSC CSAT, it is maths up to class 10th. So definitely it's maths up to class 10. The questions are on basic rules of divisibility, integers, whole numbers. But the difficulty of the question is little higher than class 10. Means class 10 the student can also solve, but yes, it would require a good understanding. There is a question about, I will be on leave till next February. So what should be the strategy and schedule? So you are saying that you won't be preparing till February. Then definitely I would say don't come afresh in February. Have at least touch with newspapers, the recent happenings around you. Whatever time you get, 1 hour, 2 hour a day, at least focus on those thoughts. Then cover the NCERTs. Those are just the base. The depth of the questions is higher than NCERT. So even after February, if you are preparing for your exam, these are some of the very crucial things that must be incorporated here. Clear? So those were some of the topics and the thoughts that we have discussed. I hope I was able to address most of the queries that you had. Wish you very good luck for your preparation. We are always here in case you have any doubts, any questions, any suggestions required. You can simply post those on the comment section or just drop us an email or a call on our number 999-800-8851, and through that you can get constant guidance and mentorship. Wish you very good luck for your preparation. Don't get disheartened, study well, prepare well, and let us know if you have any further questions or doubt. We would be having future live sessions as well, where we would be working on more questions, and shortly we would be releasing another video which would be covering the most tricky questions which are asked in CSAT and the silly mistakes that you usually commit. Also follow the links and the content below for more information. Have a wonderful day ahead. Thank you.